Meili Robles. People turn to the news for two reasons: breaking news and weather. For local SoCal residents, the weather helps determine everything from what to wear to how to plan to commute. Today, we're joined by someone whose voice and presence have become a trusted part of that daily routine. KTLA meteorologist, journalist, and community role model, Vera Jimenez. From her roots in Santa Ana to her evolution as a science communicator and entrepreneur, Vera's journey is one of resilience, adaptability, and impact. We are diving into her story today, her career, and deeper reflections during and behind the forecast. Vera, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back at my alma mater. SAC is very dear and near to my heart always. And so I'm blessed and honored to be back here for a short interview.
We're always welcome to Future Johns, of course.
Thank you.
So I like to ask this question to everybody I interview, but why your profession? What made you choose your profession?
I like to give people information. I always call it news you can use. Mm-hmm. And I have the ability to stand in front of a camera and not get nervous. And so I also believe that, life takes you to where you're supposed to be. And despite the fact that I had no interest in working in television, I learned that here while I was at SAC, thank goodness. I had a plan, but it ended up being that television was the plan, and I just didn't know it. And meteorology, I started off as a traffic reporter, and again, that was also news you could use. And meteorology then became the next road to take, and that is also news that you can use. And I think that giving people information that they can actually do something to help themselves is really important, because a lot of times people listen to the news and they feel overwhelmed and they feel bewildered because they can't always take action on what they're hearing. But when I tell them it's going to be really cold, make sure your kid has an extra jacket. It's going to be really hot. Give them a sunblock spat before they go to school. Give them extra water. That's like actionable news. And I love being able to feel like I'm having a direct impact and helping someone's life be a little bit better.
Yes. Well, you've definitely helped me in the weather.
Thank you.
So you moved from Mexico to Santa Ana at a very young age. How was that transition shaping your belonging and sense of identity?
Well, that's why I'm back, because I remember where I came from. I've not forgotten it. I was 3 years old when my family moved to the States. So I feel like a native because it's the only home that I know. It's the only schooling system that I know. It's the only government form that I know. So I feel very much like a native. And I love the community that I grew up in. I actually grew up in Garden Grove, but Santa Ana was right next door. I had family that lived here. I went to Santa Ana College for 7 years. So this very much became a home to me, a second home to me. And because, again, it was so close, you can't tell where the city border is. So that's why I'm here today, because I love this campus. I love the college, and the community is still very much my community.
Well, I love that you mentioned Santa Ana College, since we are in Santa Ana College. Why did you choose to go to a 2-year university straight out of high school instead of following the traditional 4-year path?
Well, my mom was a single mom of 6 kids. I was the last one. There was a lot of working and not a lot of money. So this was very affordable. I could work a full-time job or a part-time job or 2 part-time jobs and go to school at the same time. The most important thing that my mom taught me is that if you can't pay cash for it, it's not worth going into debt for. And so I believed that and took it to heart and thought, if I go to community college, the time is going to pass me anyway. I'm going to be able to go and pay for it as I go and not get into debt. And we know what it is to be in financial debt because of student loans, and our students and our young people, our young adults are now suffering through the consequences of massive education debt that in many times isn't even worth it because they're not working in the careers that they chose. So that's what brought me to Santa Ana College. Plus the fact that Santa Ana College was a place that my sisters had gone to. I have a couple of uncles that took a lot of classes here. So this felt like a natural place for me to be.
I love the family connection to the college. It's amazing. So what do you remember most vividly about here in Santa Ana, and what experiences steered you to join the media industry?
The experiences that I remember the most is, well, back when I was here, I started at the Eldon, was part of West 17th, and then came here to the media center, although it didn't have that fancy name. It was just, you're going to Centennial Park where the TVs are. So that's what I knew it at. But I think one of the most important things that I learned was how to write, how to actually tell a story. Bud Little, who was our professor then, was an incredible professor who was very kind, very caring, very nurturing, but he was also very critical. And he raised the bar for us, and it taught us how to raise the bar, how to take critique without being hurt. He taught us how to have thick skin, and if you're going to work in television and be in front of 1,000 whatever people here in the community of Santa Ana, or whether you're at KTLA being viewed by millions, you have to have a thick skin. And that was one of the things that I learned from Bud and from the editors and the editorial staff, is that when you're criticized, don't take it as an affront or an offense. Take it as a way to become a better version of you. Learn to raise your bar, because I don't think that we do that these days because we're afraid we're going to hurt someone's feelings. Someone's going to get offended. And it's like, that's not what it's about. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. And if you're always going to get offended, you're never going to become a better version of you.
That's the truth right
so
there.
So that's what I learned at Santa Ana College. And that's why I love it here.
That's the truth. Yeah. Here at Santa Ana, we want the truth, right? And we want people with thick skin.
We do. And we want what's best for people.
Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes the truth is the best thing, even if it hurts.
Yes, I agree. Well, your story sounds incredibly fascinating, but we're going to have to take a short break before we get into it again. So when we come back, we'll speak to Vera about what it's like to be an impacting woman in the media. And it looks like we're going to be hearing more about your journey to KTLA and meteorology.
Thank you.
You're watching SAC News in Focus.
My bad, I signaled halfway, and I think she messed it up.
Nice to talk. All good. I gotta go teach the high
All right.
school.
Bye, P.
A pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, I thought that meant like,
My
you gave me
pleasure.
5 minutes.
Thank
I thought,
They do take a lot more time. A lot of the times you interact with students on the discussion board, so it's kind of nice to collaborate with the students there. I do move along faster in these classes because the 16-week courses are crammed into an 8-week course. So with that being said, you're doing like 2 chapters a week versus a chapter a week. I am looking to graduate this spring and transferring to Cal State Fullerton. So I'm very close.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're speaking to Vera Jimenez, Santa Ana College alumna and KTLA meteorologist. Before we went on break, we were talking about her incredible journey through SoCal and how that has shaped. She inspires the world and the people in the community. Which brings me to my next question. Weather can be deeply personal, as we know. People depend on their forecast to plan their days or even their lives in emergencies. So how were you able to balance scientific accuracy with public trust and urgency during extreme events?
I think the most important thing is to have that conversation with people. It's not about the science that people aren't going to understand. It's about taking that science and breaking it down into words and examples that people can relate to and can understand. Because if people can understand what you're communicating to them, then they're empowered to do something about it. So I think the most important thing for me as a weather reporter, a meteorologist. I am technically a meteorologist, so I went to school. But the most important thing for me as a service to the community and to the people that are watching, because that's really what I am doing, I am performing a service, is to be able to break all of that science down and translating it into language that they can understand so that they're comfortable. So it's not about talking over their heads and impressing them with all the fancy words and things that I know. It's about giving them the information so that they can break it down, distill it, and figure out what actions they need to take to prepare their families and themselves for whatever weather emergency or weather day. It's not always an emergency, but for what is to come.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the way you earn trust, is you speak with them, not at them.
Yeah. And you build relationships through media. I love that. To bounce off that, how was your experience dealing with the Palisade fires that we had a couple months ago?
It was very tragic because regardless of what community you were looking at, whether you were looking at people in the Palisades or you were looking at people in Altadena, people are people. They all have homes. They have families. You know, these are things that they've worked really hard for. This is where their roots are, whatever it may be. But when you are doing the job, and there were moments where, like, I wouldn't be on camera and I would have to compose myself because I would start to get that choked up, like I'm going to cry. But you have to learn to compartmentalize so that you can say, right now, I'm on career mode, and now I am at my dinner break and I need to breathe and I need to let out whatever I need to let out. I've got 5 minutes to eat dinner and to get my head together and then get back on camera. Because when you're on those fires, we were all on from 5 a.m. to sometimes as late as 3 a.m. nonstop. And because we have the anchors that I work with, Sharon and Micah, we are so connected that we can all kind of tell when we all needed a break. So Micah would talk for 5 minutes, Cher would run to the bathroom, Cher needed a break, Micah was still like looking at stuff, so I would jump in and I'd be like, she needs a break, I need to go on. And I would have to, we all would have to ad-lib for the next 5-7 minutes, whatever it was. Luckily, I have a lot of maps and things that help me through that, but yeah, it's just learning how to separate the personal from the professional. And you have to do that not just as a meteorologist, but as a reporter. All of the stories that are being reported about shootings and deaths and illnesses and all of that, you just have to remember that you, first and foremost, when you're on camera, you are a professional.
Yeah, that's really good advice, especially for people that are just breaking into the industry during a time like this. Love that. So what can colleges do, in your opinion, to ensure that journalists and media students are being taught the most current way in the industry, such as social media is now being a big presence in journalists' lives?
Yes. So with the advent of YouTube and social media, we used to be beholden to just TV stations. So if you wanted to put a reel together, you would have to find an internship, get a job as an intern, meaning for college credit at a university or at a television station or radio station, do your time, get a reel together, and then send it off. But now with the advent of YouTube and social media, and in particular the iPhone, you don't need any of that anymore. And quite frankly, you almost can't, because now interns have to be paid. And those are few and far between. So as a journalist, if you want to tell a story, then you have a phone, you have YouTube, you have Facebook, social media, TikTok. You can tell stories that are compelling to you, put those together in a reel, and then send them off to a television station if that's the track that you want to take.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm guilty of filming with my phone all the time, but like I said, I believe it's just the story, it's not the technology that gets through.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But the technology is a medium for you to get the story through. So if you learn that the components work hand in hand.
And I just love that for students that are in the social media age.
And they're not beholden to like, oh my gosh, Now they can even tell their own stories and be their own
Yes.
journalists and actually get money paid from YouTube and
yeah.
Facebook and TikTok.
Yeah, that's how
So-
it is. Which I think it's good as well, because now we're reaching out to the public more and we're getting that community outreach.
And especially, you can also make that more localized. Like if you
Yes.
live in Santa Ana, you can create your own YouTube channel of like what's happening in Santa Ana.
Yeah, yeah. So as a woman in science communications, what shifts have you seen in the industry, and what challenges do you think will remain in the future?
To be quite frank, I don't think that gender thing is an issue anymore. And while people still try to make it an issue, it hasn't been an issue. I'm 52 years old. When I was a little girl, there was Laura Diaz, there was Tawny Little, there was Joan London. I mean, women have always worked in the industry. And I think the more that we perpetuate that there is this gender thing going on and that women are still victims, we will continue to be victims. But if you turn on the television, how many minority and women faces do you see? There is representation, and I want to be someone who says, like, let go of all that stuff. That's like antiquated thinking. That's backwards thinking. And the more that you perpetuate that, the more people think that it's still around, but it's not. Turn on the TV. What are you looking at? Look, open your eyes. What do you see? Does that look like there is still this disparity in representation? No. You walk into a newsroom, there is everything. Gender identification. There are varieties of nationalities and different language speakers. I mean, no, like those are days of bygone.
Yeah.
Let's embrace where we have gotten.
And I love that. And I love that's a great standing point for people that are trying to get into the industry to know that, you know what? We're done with all the biases and of the past.
The colors and the genders. Like, look around, open your eyes.
Yes, I agree. And thank you so much for that wonderful send
So
off.
don't ever look at yourself in the mirror and think that you're limited. Am I looking to the right camera? Which is the camera right now? Which one am I? Okay, I am looking at you no matter what industry you want to work in. Look at me. I am speaking to you. Don't look at yourself and think that you are limited based on the color of your skin or your gender, because that is antiquated thinking. We don't embrace that anymore. Like, we are moving forward.
Well, thank you. I want to thank my guest, Vera Jimenez, for taking the time out of her busy day to come chat with us. As semester comes to a close, we want to remind students and graduates that the sky is the limit. No matter where you are or what you're studying, you have the ability to be a leader. I'm Meili Robles, and we'll see you next time on SAC News in Focus.